A teacher told his students to start practicing on a cup. Here is the whole instruction, and I want you to notice where it goes. If you have a favorite cup, that it is but a cup of which you are fond of. For thus, if it is broken, you can bear it. If you embrace your child or your wife, that you embrace a mortal. And thus, if either of them dies, you can bear it. Read the grammar of that. A cup, then a child. Same sentence, same construction, same drill. He does not change tone between them. He does not soften the second one, and he does not treat them as two different orders of problem. The book is called the Enchiridion, which means a handbook, literally a thing held in the hand. It is 53 short chapters and, in the translation I am reading, 7,140 words. You could read the whole of it in the time it takes to watch this video, twice. So this is not a summary of a big book. This is a card being turned over slowly. And here is what I want to argue. There is one sentence from this handbook that is everywhere, on posters, in productivity newsletters, at the top of 100,000 threads about morning routines. It is chapter 5, and it is the mildest thing in the entire text. The chapters on either side of it are about your wife and your children dying, and they are written in the same flat instructional voice as the cup. Nobody quotes those. Today, in 20 minutes, I'm reading the Enchiridion in Thomas Higginson's translation of 1865. The most shared Stoic in the world wrote a manual for rehearsing loss, and the internet took the one page that does not hurt. A man opened a handbook by drawing one line, and everything else in it hangs off that line. There are things which are within our power, and there are things which are beyond our power. That is the first sentence of chapter 1, and it is the entire system. There is no second idea in this book. On the inside of the line, his list is short. Within our power are opinion, aim, desire, aversion, what you think, what you are trying to do, what you want, what you refuse. Everything else is outside. Your body, your reputation, your job, other people, the weather, whether the thing you love keeps existing. And I want to be honest that this is a much harder claim than it sounds when it is printed over a photograph of a mountain. Because most of what makes life good is on the outside of that line. He is not saying those things do not matter. He is saying they are not yours, and that treating them as yours is the specific mistake that produces misery. Which raises the question this whole episode is built around. If almost nothing is yours, what exactly is the training for? Not for feeling better. He never once promises you will feel better. Watch what he actually has you practice, and the answer arrives on its own. And notice what is missing from his list of what is yours. Your health is not on it. Your work is not on it. The people you live with are not on it. 4 words: opinion, aim, desire, aversion. That is the whole inventory. Every self-help book written since has quietly expanded that list, because a list that short does not sell anything. He was not selling anything. He taught in a rented room in a provincial town and left no writing at all. Before going to the public baths, he told his students to run the whole thing in their heads first. And the rehearsal is not soothing. It is a list of the people who will annoy you. If you are going to bathe, represent to yourself the incidents usual in the bath. Some persons pouring out, others pushing in, others scolding, others pilfering. Somebody is going to splash you, somebody is going to shove past, somebody is going to shout, and somebody is going to steal your things. Picture all 4 before you go in. Then say this to yourself, and he gives you the words. I will now go to bathe and keep my own will in harmony with nature. This is what I mean by a handbook. It is not a set of beliefs. It is a set of drills, and they have props. Here is another one, at dinner. A dish is being carried round the table. Is anything brought round to you? Put out your hand and take a moderate share. Does it pass by you? Do not stop it. Is it not yet come? Do not yearn in desire toward it, but wait till it reaches you. Perfectly reasonable table manners. And then, in the very next line, he tells you what the dish stands for. So with regard to children, wife, office, riches, the plate is your family. The plate is your career. Take your share when it comes round. When it goes past, let it go past. Do you see what he keeps doing? He starts with something small and domestic that you can actually practice on, and then he tells you the small thing was never the point. A horse walked past and he used it to take something away from his students. His example is that if the horse were to boast about being handsome, that would be tolerable, because it is the horse's own face. But when the man leading it boasts, the words come out differently, and he lands it in one line. Know that you are elated only on the merit of the horse. Everything you list when somebody asks what you have achieved, check how much of it is the horse. The school you got into, the company on your card, the country you were born in, the family that paid for the first year. None of that is nothing, and none of it is yours in the sense he means. Then he does the same operation from the other direction, and this is where the book stops being comfortable, because he applies it to a body that does not work. Sickness is an impediment to the body, but not to the will unless itself pleases. And again, more specifically, lameness is an impediment to the leg, but not to the will. I need you to know something about the man saying that. He was lame. This is not a well person being brisk about illness from a distance. It is a man with a leg that did not work, writing down the sentence he used on himself. Whether that makes the sentence more convincing or just sadder is genuinely up to you. But it is not a slogan he picked up. It is load-bearing. And I want to draw out what the distinction actually buys him, because it is not comfort. If the leg is outside the line and the will is inside it, then the leg can be ruined and the sentence still holds. That is not a consolation. It is a place to stand that cannot be taken, chosen precisely because everything else could be. A man who can be sold does not get to build on his circumstances. He builds on the only square of ground nobody can reach. There is one sentence in this handbook that has escaped the handbook entirely, and here it is. Men are disturbed not by things, but by the views which they take of things. That is chapter 5. You have seen it. Everyone has seen it. It is the founding text of roughly the entire modern self-improvement industry. It is quoted in cognitive therapy handbooks, and it is genuinely a great sentence. Compact, testable, and true often enough to be useful. He immediately gives an example, and the example is not small. Thus, death is nothing terrible, else it would have appeared so to Socrates. So even in the mild chapter, the subject is dying. Now here is my argument, and it is the reason I wanted to do this book. Chapter 5 is the mildest thing in the Enchiridion. It is the only major chapter that asks you to reframe a feeling rather than surrender a person. It fits on a mug. It survives being separated from everything around it, and the chapters around it do not, so they get left behind. Chapter 3, which you have already heard, is about your child dying. Chapter 7 is about being called away from your family with no notice. Chapter 11 is about saying the word restored over a dead child. The internet quotes chapter 5 and skips chapter 11, and chapter 11 is the one that tells you what the book is actually for. So which book have you been reading? The one about managing your reactions? Or the one about practicing for the funeral? A ship put in for water, and while it was moored, the passengers went ashore and started picking things up off the beach. That is the scene he builds chapter 7 out of, and it starts as ordinary travel advice. You can walk on the sand, you can gather shellfish, you can pick up a truffle, but your attention has to stay on the ship because the captain will call, and when he calls, you go. Then he extends the list, and the extension is the whole point. If, instead of a truffle or shellfish, such a thing as a wife or a child be granted you, there is no objection. But if the captain calls, run to the ship, leave all these things and never look behind. A wife, a child, on the same list as a shellfish you happen to find on a beach. And then, for the older students in the room, a footnote that is somehow worse. But if you are old, never go far from the ship, lest you should be missing when called for. If you are old, do not wander, stay near the boat. The image is doing an enormous amount of work here, and it is worth slowing down on. The ship is your life having an end. The shore is everything you get to have while it is moored. The captain is not cruel and is not consulted. He simply calls when he calls. And the shellfish in your hands were never yours. You found them lying there, on the way to somewhere else. 3 words in that passage stop me every time, and I am not going to pretend they do not. Never look behind. I do not accept that. I think looking behind is most of what love is. And I think a philosophy that asks you to walk up a gangway without turning round has quietly removed the thing it claims to be protecting. If my instruction for the death of a child is, do not look back, I have not achieved peace. I have achieved a smaller life that is easier to defend. That is my view, plainly, and you are welcome to disagree with me before you disagree with him. But I owe you the other half because it changes the sentence completely. The man who wrote, "Never look behind," was born a slave. His body was legally somebody else's property from the day he was born. He could be sold, moved, or maimed without being asked. And at some point, he was lamed. Now read the philosophy again. A doctrine that says your body, your position, and the people near you can be taken from you at any moment, without warning or appeal, is not a thought experiment if you are owned. It is a description of Tuesday. He is not teaching detachment to comfortable people. He is teaching the only freedom available to somebody who has none of the other kinds. And he is teaching it to students who could be next. So I hold both of these. The instruction is too cold for the life I have. And it was written by somebody who did not get to have that life, for other people who did not either. He gave his students a substitution to make in their own speech. And the whole change is a single verb. When something is taken, you are not to use the word lost. You are to use the word restored, handed back, returned to the person it belonged to. And then, having set up that rule with a broken jug in mind, he applies it. And this is chapter 11. Has your child died? It is restored. Has your wife died? She is restored. And, in case the pattern was not clear, has your estate been taken away? That likewise is restored. Your child, your wife, your house. Same verb, same grammar as the cup 300 words earlier. I have read a great deal of material about Stoicism in the last few years. The podcasts, the daily email versions, the cold shower school. I have never once seen anybody quote that chapter, and I understand why. It is unusable. There is no way to put it on a graphic, no way to make it sound like an advantage, no way to sell it as an edge over your colleagues. It does not help you get up earlier, but it is the center of the book, and everything else in the handbook is a rehearsal for it. The cup is practice. The dish going past at dinner is practice. The shells on the beach are practice. This is the exam, which means the honest version of this philosophy is not a productivity system with a Roman accent. It is a discipline for people who have understood that everybody they love is on loan, and who would rather find that out in advance than on the day. He told his students they were actors, and then took away the one thing an actor usually gets to want. Remember that you are an actor in a drama of such sort as the author chooses. If short, then in a short one. If long, then in a long one. A short play or a long one. You do not know which you are in, and you were not asked. He goes further. The part might be a poor man, a cripple, a ruler, or a private citizen, his list, not mine, and your work is the same in each case. For this is your business, to act well the given part, but to choose it belongs to another. I find this the most generous idea in the book, and also the one that has aged the strangest. Generous because it separates the quality of your performance from the quality of your role, which is the only mercy available to somebody handed a bad part. Strange because we have built an entire culture on the opposite premise, that choosing your part is the whole of a life, that if you are unhappy in the role, you should change roles, and that a person who accepts their casting has given up. He would say we have confused the two jobs, and that most of our exhaustion comes from trying to do the authors. Is he wrong? I think he is wrong about how much of the casting is fixed. I do not think he is wrong that we spend most of our energy on the part of it that is not. And there is a hard version of this that applies to almost everyone watching. Most of the facts that shaped your life were settled before you had any say in them. Where you were born, what it cost, who was in the house. How much of your dissatisfaction is with the performance, and how much of it is with the casting? He would say that telling those two apart is most of the work, and that we almost never do it. He told them that sheep do not vomit up grass to prove to the shepherd how much they have eaten. The full line, because it is better than my summary, for sheep do not hastily throw up the grass to show the shepherds how much they have eaten, but inwardly digesting their food, they produce it outwardly in wool and milk. You do not display the principles, you display what the principles turned into. Wool and milk, not grass. This is a 2,000-year-old instruction not to post about it, and it is aimed squarely at the exact behavior that has made this philosophy popular again. The man whose entire personality is his discipline is bringing the grass back up. And then, in another chapter, he goes after the other failure mode, the one where you keep starting. Thus, you too will be at one time a wrestler, and another a gladiator, now a philosopher, now an orator, but nothing in earnest. His comparison is children who have just watched a show. They play at wrestling, then at sword fighting, then at blowing a trumpet, then at acting a tragedy. Each one for an afternoon, each one abandoned when the next thing is seen. Nothing in earnest. I would like to say that description does not fit anybody I know. I cannot say that. I cannot say it about myself. How many things have you been for about 3 weeks each? Near the end, he compares your judgment to your foot, and the comparison is almost comically domestic. As in walking, you take care not to tread upon a nail or turn your foot. So likewise, take care not to hurt the ruling faculty of your mind. You already do this. You do it without thinking, every time you walk across a floor in the dark. He is asking for that same low-level, unglamorous, constant attention, pointed inward. Not a retreat, not a practice, not a course. Watching where you put your feet. And then the book ends, and it ends on borrowed lines rather than his own. Conduct me, Zeus, and thou, O destiny, wherever your decrees have fixed my lot. I follow cheerfully, and, did I not, wicked and wretched, I must follow still. I follow cheerfully, and if I did not, I would still have to follow. That is the least consoling formulation of acceptance I have ever read, and I think it is the most honest. He is not claiming the willing get a better outcome. The outcome is identical. The only thing that changes is whether you spend the walk fighting. And the very last words in the handbook are not his either. They are Socrates, to the men who were about to kill him. Anytus and Mildest may kill me indeed, but hurt me they cannot. 7,000 words, 53 chapters, a cup, a dish at dinner, a handful of shells, a nail on the floor. Everyone quotes chapter 5. Chapter 11 is where the book keeps what it actually knows. And I think that is worth saying plainly, because this book is having a second life right now, and it is being sold badly. It is not a system for performing better. Nothing in it will make you more effective at anything. It is a set of exercises for people who have worked out that everything they love is held on loan, and who would rather find that out on an ordinary afternoon with a cup in their hands than on the worst day of their life. Whether that is wisdom or a way of flinching early, I genuinely do not know. But it is what the book is, and it deserves to be read as itself rather than as a morning routine.